Matt Hoey came in second place, I believe, in the Kansas City Open.
That's correct.
With a very similar list, perhaps the same list a couple weeks ago. The one main deck fourth bolt, I recall. So this may be the same 60.
Wouldn't surprise me. And Hoey's had a lot of success with this rug deck in the past. You did mention the runner-up performance in Kansas City with Rug Delver before being dispatched by Death and Taxes, because that deck does a lot of winning as well. So Kale is going to start off here with a fetch land into a volcanic island. And we'll see what the turn one play is going to be. Again, these deck lists are relatively identical. You'll find that Thompson does have one main deck copy of True Name Nemesis, where Hoey does not. I've also got here on Thompson's side, as he's going to resolve a Ponder. Does have 3 Chain Lightnings to go on 4 Lightning Bolts, so a little more added burn, 2 copies of Gataxian Probe, 2 Spell Pierces, 2 Spell Snares, and no Stifles.
So Hoey's picking up the 4 Stifles here, and that's the big change here. This used to be a pretty contentious issue amongst Rug Delver fans. Were you supposed to play Stifle or not? I've kind of come around. I used to not like Stifle.
I used to not like it too. I kind of like it in this particular deck because you're trying to be a land destruction deck.
Yeah, to me, Rug Delver is all about maximizing the power of Wasteland and Daze. That's the major incentive to build this deck. And Stifle fits in quite well once you view it through that paradigm.
So there was a shuffle there with the Ponder. That's resolved, and Thompson will kick it over to Hoey. Hoey going to look at a Polluted Delta there and a couple of cards. We'll see if we can figure out exactly what he wants to do in the first turn of the game. May have Wasteland as an option here, for example.
Yeah, also the choice between probably a Cantrip and I believe Nimble Mongoose as well.
So it'll be a Delta to begin things. And again, this sort of mirror match is very interesting as players do try to jockey for position. Their lands could get destroyed very, very quickly. They have to try to play around Dazes to the best of their ability, but their deck doesn't have a lot of lands in it. Tarmogoyf is probably the premier threat in the matchup, but can you get it into play, especially when your opponent has Daze, has Force of Will, and in Thompson's case, has Spell Snare.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I feel like most of the games break down to one player being incapacitated at some point, because there's only 18 lands in the list, many of which are fetch lands that can be stifled, and all of them can be wasteland.
It's no Mongoose from Hoey, and it's going to resolve, so no Daze, no Force there from Thompson. No Mongoose is actually a pretty gosh darn good threat in this matchup as well, due to the fact that it has Shroud. So there is a Wasteland. Now this is a Delver.
Yeah, reasonable line of victory in this matchup is kill Delver of Secrets, prevent Tarmogoyf from resolving, and then Nimble Mongoose can go unchecked.
That'll be a Scalding Tarn. Gonna sacrifice that Will Hoey. Gonna go down to 18. This is a Volcanic Island. We'll see if Thompson's able to flip that Delver here in just a little bit here. We'll see what Hoey wants to do on his second turn of the game. Is it time to potentially Cantrip? It's time for a Lightning Bolt to target that Delver of Secrets. Will there be a Daze here from Thompson? No, but there will be a Force of Will. So he cares quite a bit about that card. Removing a Force of Will, 2 Force of Will to try to save it.
Yeah, not only that, it's an open question of whether or not that Force of Will is going to be able to do anything better than this.
This is true.
And Hoey contemplating fighting over this himself. Generally speaking, I have a philosophy of if your opponent's willing to Force of Will, it's generally worth Force of Willing back.
I've found that as well. Even though I don't do a lot of Force of Wills, I do get to watch a lot of these matches. And if, you know, clearly Thompson is saying, I really want to keep this Delver of Secrets. That's what he's saying right now. Now, Hoey's looking at another Lightning Bolt. And that might be part of the reason that he is not going to Force of Will here. He will serve in with his Nimble Mongoose, 4 cards in the graveyard, so he's pretty close to threshold. Now he will pass back over to Thompson. Thompson's going to put the Delver trigger on the stack, take a look at the top card, and it does not look like it's going to be flipping. So Thompson will draw a card, and it's actually his lone copy of True Name Nemesis.
Now, what is awkward here from Hoey, this is kind of what punishes him for not Force of Willing back, is now I don't believe he has another land in hand, so he has to wait to draw one before being able to potentially Wasteland this Delver, or Lightning Bolt this Delver, rather.
That Wasteland's a beating, as Wasteland typically is. Hoey draws a card. It's a copy of Wasteland for him. Now, he can Wasteland back against Thompson, but the question, of course, now is, do you want to play around Stifle or not? Hoey has them in his deck, and he actually has one in his hand, and he says, I'm going to fire it off right now. And now in comes the Mongoose, so just for 1, so he has 6 cards in his graveyard.
I think Hoey would have been better served doing that on Kale's upkeep. So that way, in the event that he did have Stifle, at least it would use up the blue mana that turn.
Here is a Brainstorm. That'll be revealed to the Delver. That'll flip it over. I don't think either player has lands in their hands. So
The
Thompson's going to come
Stone Rain
across.
Mirror in full effect.
Yeah, we are certainly here. Who's going to draw a land first in their 18 land deck? It's a Gataxian Probe for Hoey. He wants to see what's in Thompson's hand. We're going to see a True Nemesis, a Spell Snare, a Chain Lightning, and a Brainstorm.
Uh-huh.
Hoey having to pay 2 life to do that is mighty important. He went from 14 to 12. Makes it so the Delver, the increments of 3 are very, very important. Hoey able to find a land off of that. Now this will be a Ponder. So hit 1, 2, and 3. What he's looking for right now is a fetch land or Volcanic Island, so he can cast a Lightning Bolt that's in his hand. Now his Nimble Mongoose is up to size now. There are 7 cards in the graveyard. And Hoey's actually going to keep. Interesting. In for 3.
Yeah, he's keeping, I believe, Ponder and Tarmogoyf there, so he gets more cracks at it next turn.
Thompson draws his card for the turn. It's a copy of Daze. That's not a land, nor is it a Force of Will, so all he can do is shrug his shoulders and attack for 3. Hoey's going to go down to 9. Thompson will pass the turn back. Hoey will draw that Tarmogoyf. It's actually a Brainstorm, excuse me. I thought it was a Tarmogoyf. Now he's going to Brainstorm. Look at the Tarmogoyf and a Delver and another Tarmogoyf and shuffle very quickly.
Yeah, if that's not a Volcanic or a fetch land, that's going back.
Yep. Now if he's able to find that red source for a Lightning Bolt, life gets very easy for him, but he better find it quick because he is under the gun.
Yeah, at 9 right now, Chain Lightning in Kale's hand, of course uncastable, but he also may draw something, and it looks like Hoey is unlocked.
It is a Scalding Tarn on the Mystery Shuffle from the Ponder. Hoey will sacrifice the Scalding Tarn right away. You have to imagine he's going to go get an Underground Sea. Or excuse me, a Volcanic Island. Pardon me, no seas in this deck. There's the Bolt. See what Thompson draws for the turn. It's a copy of Delver. It's not a land.
A spell, unfortunately.
Yeah. Hoey's going to draw a card. He's going to surf in for 3 yet again. Thompson's going to go down to 7. Hoey's going to play another Mongoose with the Lightning Bolt available. Kale will draw a card. It's another copy of Delver's Secrets. He'll pass the turn back. Hoey will quickly untap, take a draw, serve in for 6, put his opponent down to 1. Not going to show another Lightning Bolt. And Kale Thompson will concede the game. So Matthew Hoey is going to win game number 1 here in the Rug Delver Mirror, thanks to a timely top deck Scalding Tarn.
Yeah, it's funny, you know, there's a 1 True Name Nemesis in Kale's list, and you would imagine that True Name Nemesis improves his matchup here because it's a creature matchup. Once True Name Nemesis in play, only Insectile Apparition can attack on the other side of the table, et cetera, et cetera. I actually think True Name Nemesis makes this build worse for the mirror match because you can't get to 3 mana unless you're winning the game anyway.
It's borderline impossible.
Yeah, it's just borderline impossible to cast a 3 mana spell. So even though it looks like on the surface True Name Nemesis would improve his matchup, I believe it's a hindrance.
We'll take a look at some sideboards here. I'm going to start with Kale's. I've got 3 Pyroblast, 3 Submerge, 2 Flusterstorm, a Sylvan Library, a Forked Bolt, an Ancient Grudge, a Rough and Tumble, another copy of True Nemesis, a Grafdigger's Cage, and a Pithing Needle. Like Pyroblast, a decent amount here. Can kill Delver's Secrets, counter some of the counter spells, and take care of some of the cantrips.
Yeah, and Submerge is nice in this matchup too. Very tempo-oriented. There's a lot of fetch lands too, so in response to someone activating a fetch land, you can submerge something, which shovels it back into the deck, and it's just a good tempo play besides.
I've always liked Sylvan Library here too. It is a 2 mana spell, but in situations like we just saw with the Land Destruction Mirror taking place, if you can actually get that thing in play, you might be able to ensure that you can continue to draw lands.
Yeah, it's not shabby. It is a little hard to cast, of course, but as you mentioned, but it's very good once it's in play.
On your side?
Matthew Hoey has 2 Grim Lavamancer, 2 Grafdigger's Cage, 2 Rock Tumble, 2 Flusterstorm, 3 Pyroblast, 3 Submerge, and it's cut off the numbers on Ancient Grudge here, but I can figure it out here. 3, 6, 8, 10, 11, 12, 3 Ancient Grudges, it appears. Or sorry, these are 2s, not 1s. 8, yeah, that's 1 Ancient Grudge on the sideboard. So he's got 3 Submerges, 3 Pyroblast he can also bring in. I kind of like Grim Lavamancer in the matchup just because, you know, 1 mana threats I think are at a premium here. And the 2 Flusterstorms are fringe cards you can bring in the matchup.
Chris Pakula mentioning on Twitter, he's not happy that we didn't call him and tell him that there's a rug mirror happening. He said, I could have missed it, which he's right about since it doesn't take very long.
Yeah, it typically does not.
And Oarsman79, that's Joe. Joe Lissette. I said happy land for Joe Lissette. He said, you can confirm that.
Yeah.
I am pretty happy as Joe is able to keep his sizable lead this weekend. Merriam, Fabiano, and Bertoncini were unable to top 8 either open this weekend. So we'll see what happens for those gentlemen when we do go to Washington, D.C. I've talked to all 3 of them. They said they're all going to be there.
Neither of them even really made that deep of a run.
No, it was never really in question. You know, the one person, oddly enough, that Joe has to be a little scared of now is Betcher.
Yeah.
Betcher with 13th coming in. He had 89 Open Series points. He won the Standard Opens. Now that gives him 109. And if he happens to win this Legacy Open, that opened up with 129. Now, Joe still has a 30-point lead. But Jarrett really doesn't do a lot of losing.
Well, you said, yeah, it goes from 89 to 109 to 129.
Yeah, to 129.
Yeah, so.
And Joe has 159, so a 30-point lead. And Jarrett doesn't really do a lot of losing, so it could actually be a sweat. And we know Jarrett's had some success in D.C., second place in a Grand Prix there.
Well, if he wins 4 Opens in a row and then outperforms with the Invitational, you just tip your hat to the better man.
Yeah,
there's what are you going to do?
That's all you can do. Bet you're already locked in for top 8 later this evening, playing Blue White Red Delver with Stifles this weekend. So he is already in there. And to be fair, we could see a little back-to-back action. I know Jerry Thompson has been notified via Twitter. So a lot of storylines here.
For sure. The Rug Delver matchup is really interesting to me because it sort of combines my 2 favorite things. There's a lot of room for nuance. There's a lot of jockeying over things like days, playing around Stifle, playing around Wasteland, how you want to sequence your cantrips, all that kind of stuff. So there's a ton of little things going on the margins. And often what ends up happening is someone is getting completely blown out. Someone has no permanents in play.
Yeah.
So it provides my 2 favorite things, which is nuanced strategy and someone getting crushed.
You lead a simple life.
Yeah, it's perfect.
Yeah.
There's a lot of finagling, a lot of players trying to sequence their spells, and at the end of it, Kale, no cards in play.
Yep.
It's a handful of stuff.
It's like you weren't ever even here.
For a little while.
For a couple turns, he had stuff.
Yeah.
It's Julian 23, Julian Nab from Europe, wondering if there is any elves roaming near the top tables. Doesn't look like it.
We have not seen any. I mean, the one match we had on camera today was Ross. He was upended by Andrew Tenjin playing Charlotte's Bug.
Yeah, Ross did not have the tournament he was looking for today.
No.
That's for sure.
Talking to Ross after rounds is pretty fun, too, because every loss just haunts him.
It's very revealing. Excuse me, not rewarding. Revealing is the word I'm looking for. He's very hard on himself.
Oh, absolutely.
Both players are going to take a look at their opening hands here. Thompson looks like he's happy. Hoey is as well. So game number 2 is underway. Chris, we hope you're watching, as here's a flooded strand. Thompson goes down to 19.
Kale already doing better than he was last game. He's got a land in play. It's a good start.
Yeah, really off to the races.
May have a spell to cast.
Oh, boy.
It's pretty sweet.
It's a Delver. One could argue the best spell to cast. Hoey going to draw a card here.
Oh, there's a Wasteland. Or a Stifle. He has his numerous Stone Rains at his disposal here.
I think he also has a Lightning Bolt, too. He has a Delver to play. You know, this is what makes this matchup so interesting, is what the heck is he supposed to do on turn 1?
Oh, this is what I like about the matchup. The first 3 or 4 turns of the game are often about, there's a lot of options, how do you want to position in sequence? And then after that, usually, someone has no lands in play.
And this is obviously a real decision here for Hoey, too. It's just, am I supposed to just fire off and just Wasteland you and just hope you don't have a second land? I mean, he didn't cantrip on the first turn. Deck only plays 18 lands, 17 left, you know, because there's obviously one in play. Maybe I'm just supposed to get you. Hoey's been playing this deck for some time. There's Wasteland. Yeah, he's just going to try to get him. I don't know. I mean, it seems fine. I don't know if it's correct or not, but it certainly makes sense.
Yeah.
Your deck doesn't have a lot of lands. You didn't cantrip on turn 1. It's very realistic that your start is play a Delver, cantrip on turn 2, and I'm just preventing you from doing that. Thompson did draw a Polluted Delta for the turn. The only land in his hand was a Wasteland there, so drawing colored source is mighty important, and so he goes searching for a tropical island now.
Things have gotten so extreme in this mirror match that I think Jonathan Job was the first to put it on the map, or one of the first to put it on the map, and then other people followed up by citing in Surgical Extraction with the intent of Wastelanding and then Surgical Extracting one of the land types, because the decks only play Volcanics and Tropicals. There's usually no Taiga in the deck, so you can cut someone off of a color wholesale by pursuing that line of play.
It's a Ponder. Thompson will keep, draws his card, attacks from 1. You have to imagine the Delver will be flipping next turn. Hoey's going to draw, picks up a copy of Brainstorm. There's a Trop for him, and now a Delver for Hoey. We'll see if this does resolve, and it does. So Thompson is going to flip his Delver in just a moment. There's a Chain Lightning. Again, 3 of those in his main to go along 4 Lightning Bolts, so he's a more burn-heavy version.
And I think that Chain Lightning, you know, Matt saw it game 1 through the Taxing Probe, he's seeing it again now. may be the tip-off that Stifle is not in Kale's list. Because normally, when you don't have Stifles in your deck, you have some amount of flex slots. Chain Lightning, not that common in Rug Delver, so when you do see it, in my mind, it usually indicates no copies of Stifle.
Yeah, it's actually kind of interesting that Hoey's seen Chain Lightning a couple times because, you know, there are lists that just play 4 bolts in either one Chain Lightning or 1 Forked Bolt. And then, you know, I feel like the flex spot, in this deck is kind of the 2 probes and the 2 spell snares. You know, but I mean, your argument's definitely solid. Of, you know, he hasn't seen any Stifle-esque effects yet. Will he continue to try to play around them?
Yeah,
we have no idea. You saw Chain Lightning take care of the Delver, and now another Delver here for Thompson. Looks like Hoey may have drawn Tarmogoyf for the turn, but I mean, he's under the gun here in a big way.
Yeah, he may have to bolt one of these, which opens up his Volcanic to getting hit with a Wasteland. And I do not believe he has any backup Volcanics at this point or fetch lands.
Here's a Scalding Tarn, so Hoey's going to take one more. He will go get a Volcanic and maybe deploying Tarmogoyf here. It looks like that's what's going to happen. So perhaps the race is on here.
Willing to take some lumps.
We'll see if this Delver flips here for Thompson in just a moment. As Hoey just deploy a large Tarmogoyf. We'll get our Tarmogoyf die out there to see exactly how large that thing is.
Yeah, land, creature, sorcery for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, looks like it's a 3/4. No instance over there just yet.
But another Stone Rain.
Everybody's best friend. The Wasteland is here.
Get him!
There goes the Volcanic. In for 3. Hoey's going to go down at 12. Hoey said, I wanted that Volcanic. Fast to turn back. Matt's going to draw a card. You can see the Brainstorm in his hand. He's also got a Misty over there, I believe. Drew a copy of Lightning Bolt. That's pretty important. Looks like he has 2 of those. He's going to start by casting a Brainstorm. See if this resolves.
I don't know if Matt has another land.
I think he has a Misty in his hand.
We will find out momentarily.
Yeah, I mean, the cards will be dealt in just a second. Here's a Pyroblast. Hello. All right, Tarmogoyf, you want to rumble across? You got a little bigger because there's an instant, so that goes. Yeah, you're right. No land. Thompson going to draw
Get
a
him.
card. Yep. Yeah.
Get him!
Got him. Got him. Look at you. Did you play Avalanche Riders when you were a kid?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, obviously.
I decided to smokestack, too.
Yeah. You're really something.
That's the stuff.
Tectonic Break.
Oh, and my sideboard of my States deck.
Yeah. Take a look at the top card. Delver's still not flipping. Now, of course, Nimble and Delver, they're going to hang back on defense. But I'm not sure if Hoey's going to be able to stand tall here. It's just a simple attack there from the Delver. Hoey's going to go down to 5. And then another Mongoose. A lot of creatures here for Kale this game. Hoey's going to draw a card. It's a copy of Submerge, and he's going to pick up his permanents and head to game number 3.
You know what the problem is with Submerge?
What's
you need to have a land in play to cast it.
You do. There's a requirement to play it for free.
Oh, I love it.
Get him.
A couple sweet turns and then that.
Each player has entered the game with no lands in play.
Yeah. So while we're talking about some Stone Rain mirrors here, back in the day, you know, I had my Smokestack Avalanche Rider deck. My friend Anad Correa, who I went to middle school and high school with, he actually recently competed in Pro Tour Portland, has had some Grand Prix success. He built his own Stone Rain deck. His was splashing black for Dark Ritual and Yawgmoth's Will, which were legal in Standard at the time. He played Raze. And we just sat around just Stone Raining each other for hours. I mean, hours. And we could not have been happier.
I love
They're
it.
the happiest days of our lives.
I'm going to kill your land. I'm going to kill your land.
So I have a lot of familiarity with the Stone Rain mirror. The most important thing in the Stone Rain mirror, you want to cast yours first. Because generally speaking, that prevents them from casting theirs. And then you get to unload all of your Stone Rains.
Aha.
It's about generating that initial leverage.
To be fair, there was a land destruction deck that I did enjoy quite a bit back in the day. It was the old blue-red Magnivore deck. One of my absolute favorites. Mostly because it would cause reactions that are not fit for print anywhere when you're playing the deck on Magic Online.
Yeah.
You start with the turn 1 sleight of hand, turn 2 I have nowhere your land, turn 3 Stone Rain you, turn 4 Demolish, turn 5 Tidings to refuel. Your opponent has absolutely no shot in winning.
The problem with that deck, I mean, there's a lot of problems, but
there are a lot of problems with that deck.
The fact that Demolish is involved,
oh, it warms my heart.
Just Not even making an effort to fight fair once you have the demolishes.
I also remember the tech in the mirror match was to play a Goblin Flectomancer, which lets you redirect a targeted, I think, instant or sorcery back to someone. So you would just go ahead and cast your Stone Rain. You're going to kill your own land.
Nasty.
Yeah. And of course, that deck was so good because during the time, a lot of people were playing bounce lands. So if you had the old Orzhov Basilica or Gruul Turf, that's not a good idea against that deck.
Yeah.
Yeah, that deck, you know, I tell you, I was a big fan of that deck. That was back when I was playing cards a lot with Adam Yurchik and some other players from Ohio in the Midwest. And Yurchik was one of the best Magnivore players out there, and he loved it. Oh, I loved it.
So I think I have nowhere may have been the tipping point where R&D finally said, we're putting non-land on our bounce cards going forward.
Yeah, no more of this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
When are we happy when someone's boomeranging someone else's land?
Well, it does have Arcane.
Probably never.
Maybe that's why it was okay, since it had Arcane on it.
Well, I think they felt, you know, Boomerang doesn't show up a lot in tournament decks. This is a sorcery speed Boomerang, which makes it a lot less powerful.
It is.
And then it showed up, and what was it doing? Just putting lands back in people's hands.
Not to mention, you know, the win condition for the deck was like, you know, oftentimes a 15/15 haste creature.
Yeah. Well, at least you got put out of your misery.
That's true.
In the Stone Rain mirror that I was playing back in the day, Gitu Encampment was pretty common. Buying back Hammer of Bogarden, which is particularly excruciating when both people are trying to blow up each other's lands. So at least after you've have all your lands blown up, at least Magnivore kills you quickly. I do like that dimension of the deck.
Hoey very quickly takes the mulligan here. We'll see if Thompson keeps his 7 or not. Yeah, one could say land destruction not great for the game if it's priced at 3 mana.
Yeah, I mean, I know there's rumblings in R&D of them trying to poke the bear and maybe putting Stone Rain back, but it seems like it can only cause harm.
Yeah, not great.
It's not great.
I wonder how good of a land destruction spell could cost at 4 mana, though. Maybe they could push it a little bit.
Well, the question is, what are you trying to accomplish by pushing it?
I don't know.
Just let people cast their stuff, man.
All right, fine. I like prison strategies. They're fun to me.
This is the idea of fun being zero sum.
That's correct. A polluted delta there for Matt Hoey to start things off here in game number 3. Kept to 6, Thompson kept to 7. Now, one thing Hoey hasn't shown yet is a Stifle. Thompson actually is going to get to see, I think, a Stifle now, which Hoey doesn't seem too thrilled about. We'll see what Hoey's hand is. There's a Brainstorm over there, a Scalding Tarn, a Bolt, a Ponder, and there is a Stifle, I think. Yeah.
He was going to get him.
Yeah, he was going to certainly try.
I mean, he still might end up getting him because Kale may not have a choice.
Yeah.
But the cat is now out of the bag.
That's the turn back. So now we're going to have the steering contest a little bit here. Because, I mean, it's very real that Hoey plays around Stifles the other side, too. I guess he does have a second land, but he could be fearful of a Stifle.
Well, he can now he can initiate, right?
Yeah.
Because if Matt goes to break a fetch land, Kale goes to break his, then Hoey can break his other one and stifle.
Hoey can get a Trop here.
The second land, very critical in the Stone Rain mirror match.
It's big.
Yeah, it's at least one more mana than you usually have to operate with.
There's a Ponder. So we're going to look at 3 cards. Brainstorm and Delver among them. You see the third one's a Tropical Island. So Hoey's going to decide exactly what he wants to do with this Ponder if he wants to keep it. You know, having an additional land, there is some value to that.
Yeah, I mean, he gets to take, if he wants to, he can take Delver, get a third land, and leave Brainstorm on top. And if he doesn't have to sacrifice this fetch land, he may not even have to play the Tropical Island he draws. He may set that up for a big Brainstorm. Or have a third land in play, which is nice insurance against the various Stone Rains.
Looks like he's going to keep him, and he does. Draws the Delver. And he's just going to pass the turn back, still representing Stifle. Did draw Daze for the turn. That's a card that Thompson did not see.
Yeah.
That's actually pretty important.
Also a good combo with Stifle.
Noted. Noted. See, you're kind of figuring out how the deck works. Look at you go.
There's a lot of nuances.
Yeah. Going to sacrifice a Delta.
Get him.
You see, Kale is very careful about how he sacrifices this one. I still think it's appropriate to probably counter this, or to try to stifle it, excuse me.
Yeah, Hoey kind of wants to free up his mana here a little bit.
Yeah. Hoey's hoping he's allowed to sacrifice his Scalding Tarn, which he is. But Kale says, all right, in response to that, I'm going to sacrifice my fetch land. So we're going to have this fetch land standoff, which is one of my favorites. So the Volcanic comes down first. We may see Thompson cast maybe like a Brainstorm or something here. We'll see. Because don't forget, Hoey's got a fetch land on the stack, and Thompson still has a fetch land on the stack.
Yeah.
So now Thompson says, all right, Matt, you can search for your fetch land. And Matt will search for a Volcanic Island.
I imagine this is where we're going to see the Stifle from Hoey.
Yeah. And so here is a Stifle on the initial fetch land that caused all this nonsense. Kale's going to cast a Pyroblast. I think now might be a pretty good time to maybe cast this Daze if you're Hoey.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. See if he can get while the getting's good. But Kale has a Daze of his own. So he's going to Daze either the Daze or the Stifle. So Thompson's going to win the exchange. And now he gets to search for a land, so long as he does remember. And he reaches towards Dex. Now he'll search for initial fetch land. So all of that just over a land.
Yep. Nice. Kale gets a land in play.
Yeah.
I like it.
And he's already played a land. One thing he actually can do now, because there are a couple cards in his graveyard, you can deploy a creature. And he has the ability to cast the Nimble Mongoose here if he'd like, and it looks like he will take the opportunity to do that. So, always going to be underneath a little bit of pressure as Matt does draw a card. It's a copy of Lightning Bolt. There is a Volcanic. This is a Delver. And he'll pass the turn back over to Thompson. Thompson's going to untap that Trop. He'll take a draw here.
Kale's graveyard.
He drew a copy, I believe, of Chain Lightning.
Yeah, Kale's graveyard already pretty flush.
He's got 5 cards down there. He's looking to make it 6, and it's actually a Lightning Bolt. Looked like a promo chain, but it's 3 damage all the same. So there goes the Delver. We're up to 6 cards now in Thompson's graveyard, it looks like. And is he looking to make it 7? Looks like he is. Here's a Ponder. So he's going to take a look at a couple of cards here. Set up for the future turns. You see there's a Fork Bolt that he's looking at. There's one of those in his sideboard.
Probably no big help here. Assuming he has additional removal in hand.
Yeah. If you're Hoey, your life total is a little bit higher than Thompson's. It's going to go down to 15 in just a minute here. But it feels like he's behind on board and as far as card quality in hand is concerned.
Yeah, Nimble Mongoose is, in my mind, the premier threat in the mirror match, especially post-board when Submerge, maybe Dismember become factors. Mm-hmm. And Hoey with no real help here. I mean, he needs to brainstorm into something big here.
Brainstorm into Tarmogoyf almost exactly.
And probably a way to shuffle his deck as well.
A Submerge, a Goyf, and a Delta, so.
Perfect.
Yeah, I'd say.
Not bad. Gets to get rid of one of the bolts. Lightning Bolt's a nice card here, but not that much help.
You're not in the face of what he's looking at. Now, will Hoey cast the threat? Tarmogoyf, that's the question. Does he fear Daze? He's going to sacrifice the fetch land first. He'll go down to 14. We'll see what land he wants to grab here, be it Trop or Volcanic. He's going to go with the Volcanic.
Yeah, because he has a bolt in hand, he wants an insurance red source.
Okay.
If Kale is going to wasteland him, right now Hoey would prefer to get wastelanded off of green and not red.
Here's an attempt at a Tarmogoyf. And it looks like that's going to be good to go.
And Kale shields down on his spell snare there. That's a big deal right there.
Also looks as though it puts the brakes on the Nimble Mongoose. Thompson's going to start by playing Polluted Delta for the turn. And Tarmogoyf is a big boy.
Traditionally 4/5 in the mirror match. A dead creature, a land, an instant, and a sorcery.
Yep. And there's Tarmogoyf there for Thompson. Now, Hoey can get a little creative with that Submerge now, due to there being a fetch land in play, so Thompson's got to be careful.
Yeah, right now, you know, Hoey can sit on defense because he has the option of, if Kale is to send in his Tarmogoyf, he can block and then bolt after combat. And if Kale does something with his fetch land, he can submerge the Tarmogoyf and force Kale to shuffle the Goyf back in.
Yeah, Wasteland is so big for a couple of reasons. One, it cuts Kale off of red mana, but two, Kale is incentivized now to say, hey, I need red mana.
Yeah.
So now I'm going to sacrifice my blue to Delta to go get a Volcanic Idol, and that's where Hoey pounces with the Submerge to get rid of the Tarmogoyf. Thompson going to draw a card here. And he drew a red card. It's a copy of Forked Bolts. Now he might be thinking, man, I could really use this red mana here in just a minute. I'm going to shrug his shoulders. Here's an attack with Tarmogoyf. Interesting.
Yeah, it's a tough call here because Hoey has the option of blocking and then bolting after combat, but that risks losing his Tarmogoyf to a red spell post-combat from Kale as well. If he also believes that Kale doesn't have another land, he can submerge pretty happily because Kale has the option of either shuffling it away or, I guess, drawing. He can still draw the Tarmogoyf next turn and then fetch, so I guess submerging in this spot is not very good.
Yeah, the reason this play is actually interesting too is because let's say the Hoey takes the 4, goes down to 10. Well, Thompson's turn next turn is the exact same thing.
Yeah.
And eventually Hoey's got to, say, okay, I'm going to do something. I think we're going to see him submerge now.
I don't know. It seems like this is a pretty good spot to cash in your bolt for value. You may be able to do more with the submerge down the line.
Okay. He's going to go bolting here. So there that thing goes. Thompson going to go search for a red source of mana. This turn could have gotten really ugly for Kale if Hoey had a stifle.
Yeah.
Really
oh
bad.
yeah.
He is fortunate. There's a Forked Bolt. Going to go 1 and 1. And he's going to submerge his own Tarmogoyf, feeling that is very, very important to keep alive.
But now Kale has the opportunity to spell snare this on the way back down.
And he almost played the Mongoose, but he slowed down. Now he's going to play that, and the spell snare is going to destroy Hoey.
Yeah.
Yep.
Brutal.
Back to Thompson we go.
Get him!
Yeah, Wasteland.
Get his green!
Yeah, Wasteland's pretty good. And now there's a Tarmogoyf.
Oh, yeah.
And now it's a runaway.
That's the stuff right there.
It's a runaway now. Hoey's going to draw a card. He's going to pass the turn back. That Tarmogoyf looks to be a 4/5. It's going to be an attack for 7. Hoey's going to go down to 3, and that's a chain lightning. That is going to do it. Kale Thompson is going to win this match over Matt Hoey. 2-1, and he is moving on to our elimination rounds later this evening.
Congratulations, and again, that's my perfect, there's a million interesting decisions going on throughout that entire game.